Aim assist got nerfed, which means all you controller players need the best settings possible if you still want to compete with mouse and keyboard. Then all you mouse and key players need the proper settings so you can destroy all the rollers. Video settings, audio, gameplay, mouse/keyboard, and controller. We'll go over it all in this one video, so drop a like, and without wasting any time, starting off in video. And if you're wondering, I mostly play on controller, but I also play on mouse and keyboard sometimes, so I'll cover the settings for both of those. Display, full screen, aspect ratio, I usually play on 16.9. I actually really like playing stretch res, but for videos and content creation, it just looks better if it's on native. Resolution's on 1080p. I do have a 2K monitor, but I just leave it on 1080 because my PC cannot handle 2K on Apex. Brightness, you want this somewhere around here. You don't want it too low, otherwise you can't see like dark areas of the map, but you don't want it too high where everything is washed out and there's no like contrast. So I just recommend keeping it around like 60 to 70. Field of view, I like to have this maxed out. Anything between 90 and 110 is good. FOV, ability scaling, keep that disabled. Sprint view shake, you always want this on minimal. For advanced video settings, if you're on console, don't worry about this, but you should set it to performance on console. If you're on PC, I recommend having everything turned down as low as possible. Except I have my texture streaming budget. Instead of on none, I have it on very low. But other than that, everything's as low as possible so I get the best performance. Now for your audio settings, first off, I want to show you the advanced settings. This is the most important. So sound effects volume, you always want this on 100%. That's because that's your footsteps volume, and you want your footsteps to be as loud as possible. If it's too loud, instead of changing your sound effects volume, change your master volume. Never drop your sound effects volume below 100. Dialogue volume, you want it a little bit lower than sound effects, but you still want it on because that's like your in-game character audio. So if your legends are saying something like a grenade nearby or enemies are landing near you, you want to be able to hear that. So that's why I have dialogue volume turned to around 40. Music, lobby music, personal preference, it doesn't really matter. Gameplay volume while spectating, again, personal preference. And then these also don't matter too much. And then output device and voice chat, this all depends on your system, so I can't really cover that. And over to gameplay, interact prompt style, I keep this on compact. Button hints, I play with it off, but sometimes I switch it on, it really depends. Right now I just play with it off because it's a little bit cleaner. Crosshair damage feedback, you want to keep this on X. Don't set it to X with shield icon because it's just a little bit too much clutter and you don't want clutter in Apex. Damage numbers, keep it on stacking. Again, don't put it on both because, again, too much clutter. Sometimes it looks cool, but usually I recommend having it on stacking only. Enemy health bar, keep that on. Ping capacity, faded. Enemy highlight, enabled. Obituaries, personal preference, I leave it on. Minimap rotation, again, personal preference. Depends on what game you're coming from. I keep it off. Weapon auto cycle on empty. I turn that on. Always sprint. I keep this on. Just makes it a little bit easier. One less button you have to click. And it helps prevent stick drift. If you're wondering how to prevent stick drift, well, if you're pushing down on your thumbstick to sprint, every time you do that, you're just decreasing the lifespan of your controller. And your thumbsticks are going to start developing stick drift, of course, if you keep jamming down on that button. So if you have auto sprint on, all you have to do is move forward and you'll start sprinting. Auto run, I leave this off because I have always sprint on. Jetpack control, I recommend turning this on hold. Lets you have a little bit more control over that jetpack. Incoming damage feedback, I recommend, honestly, really mess around with this. I'm not sure which one's better. Right now I'm playing 3D, but I also recommend trying out 2D. It might be better for you. Taking damage closes death box or crafting menu. You 100% want this off. It's automatically on by default. Switch this off and it's going to do you so much good in the long run. Off-screen portraits, personal preference, hop-up, pop-up, personal preference, streamer mode. I usually keep it off. Sometimes if I am streaming, I'll turn it on. Anonymous mode, personal preference. Right now I have it disabled, but sometimes I turn it on if I want to stay anonymous. Usage sharing, I keep this enabled. Performance display, I switch this on and off all the time. If I feel like I'm having a lot of lag or my internet's not doing too well, I'll turn it on. If you look in the top right, you can see my FPS, my ping, all the stuff that's going on. But if I don't have any issues, I turn it off. Communication filter, everybody, reticle. I switch this around a lot, but my favorite has to be either cyan or bright green. Or even bright yellow. Bright yellow is really nice too. But what I do is every time I find I'm doing bad and I can't aim, I'm just not doing good at all, I'll just switch my reticle color. And that minor difference has some sort of effect where it makes me lock in better and really focus on my aim. Laser sight doesn't really matter. I just have it on dark red so I don't see it as much and it's less distracting. And then accessibility features, I have all of these turned off. Mouse and keyboard, again, I'm mostly a controller player, but I do play mouse and keyboard every once in a while. And I am working on a video where I do mouse and keyboard for 24 hours. So if you want to check that out, of course, go to my channel, subscribe. But yeah, these are my settings for mouse and keyboard. Mouse sensitivity, I'm playing on 800 DPI 1.4. It's like a kind of average sensitivity. It's not too fast, not too slow. ADS mouse sensitivity, I have this on and I have it just get slightly faster with a more zoomed in optic so it feels more universal, if that makes any sense. And then all of these settings right here, I keep all of those off. And then for my movement, I have scroll wheel up to W, which lets me tap strafe. And then all of these stuff, pretty standard. I have jump on scroll wheel down, interact, and then I scroll wheel down. I can super jump. Much easier than interacting and then double clicking spacebar. Much easier and much faster. Weapons and abilities, these are all personal preference. You probably think they look really weird, but this is just what feels good for me. So attack on F, ultimate on Q, interact on E, alternate interact on X, inventory, tab, what else? Yeah, everything's just really set to what I think feels good. So you can copy these if you want, but again, really find out what feels good for your own mouse and keyboard and your own hands. Now what a ton of you guys probably want to see, controller. So starting out in button layout, this is what I'm currently using. I go down to customize. I have a lot of things switched up. So first off, crouch I have on a right stick. Now I do have it on a right stick. However, I do use paddles on my controller, as you see. So I have this paddle right here. As you can see, this paddle right here I have set to crouch. And then melee is on circle. So yeah, right there. And if you're wondering, I also do play on Xbox controllers as well. I keep switching back and forth because I'm not sure which one I like the best, but if I switch to this, these are my controller button presets with an Xbox controller. I use the same button presets, except there is one thing I changed. So switching back to the PlayStation, the only thing that's different between PlayStation and Xbox controllers when I play is my ADS and attack abilities. So if I'm on PlayStation, this is what I have it set to. I have my aim down sight set to the bumper and my fire set to the other right bumper. But if I'm on Xbox, I use the triggers to aim and shoot. That's just because I play claw and it feels more natural on PlayStation to aim and shoot with the bumpers. I don't know why, it just feels better. Stick layout, default, interact/reload button, tap to use and reload. This just makes everything a little bit faster, so I do recommend that. Crouch button, hold, aim button, hold, survival slot button. I do recommend turning this on because this lets you use your survival items a little bit faster by clicking left on the D-pad. But if you do want to inspect your heirloom or inspect your like fists and stuff, you can turn that off. And then you can inspect your thing while you're running without having to open up this menu. Trigger dead zones, try to keep this on none. Menu cursor speed, want this as high as possible without missing stuff in death boxes. So this is what I have it at. Movement and aiming. So right now I'm using the most overpowered sensitivity in the game, 4:3 linear. However, there is one little change I do that makes it even better than just a standard 4:3 linear. Yeah, so I'll show you that in a sec. So look dead zone, I have it on, actually it's supposed to be a none. Depends what controller I'm using. If I have a lot of stick drift on my controller, I switch it up to small, but for most controllers, I like just to play it on none. A little bit of stick drift is not bad at all. Like you see, I have a little bit of stick drift, but this isn't really going to mess up your aim. And you do want a little bit because it just shows that your controller is actually responsive. So don't worry if you have a little bit of stick drift. Movement dead zone, small, inverted, off, vibration. You always want to play with vibration off because it just makes it a little bit better for your aim because it's not going to mess up your aim by shaking every time you try to aim down sights and stuff. Okay, 4:3 linear. Let me show you how to get this even better than just the standard settings. First off, you want to go to Paroptic settings and make sure you have this turned off and everything set to default. And then with these turned off, you want to go to advanced look controls, turn custom look controls on, go to Paroptic settings, make sure they're turned on, and then you want to set your custom ADS controls to these settings. Doesn't have to be exactly this, but somewhere around this. The point is, the more zoomed in optics you have, the faster your sensitivity, and this just makes it feel a lot more consistent when switching between optics. Leave that on, and then go out, turn off custom look controls, and now you'll have your 4:3 linear sense with the Paroptic settings also affecting your sensitivity. Yeah, but even with the best settings possible, you won't be very good if you don't know all the fundamentals and strategies of the game. Which is why I have 250 Apex Legends tips and tricks to become the best player possible. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.